Hey, hey, hey. Hello, everyone. Let's get into it. If you're just joining us for the very first time, please introduce yourself and where you're from. If you've been on a lot of these live streams, uh, then by all means, let us know you're here and where you're from too. And last time we tried something different, and so we're probably going to do more of the same this time. And we're going to be diving in deeper with what we covered last Thursday. I spent the whole weekend just pigging out as I went deeper and deeper into a topic that I'm also really excited to share with you guys about. So let me know that you're here. Let me know that you're watching and where you're from. And we'll make this as interactive as possible. I am going to cover today a thinking process that we were heading towards last time. A thinking process that's part of theory of constraints. That what I found was that any entrepreneur who started using this thinking process just became a much better entrepreneur, separate from what we were aiming for and the purpose of the course, which was teaching theory of constraints. So I'm not talking about just being a more effective entrepreneur because you know theory of constraints, but that you actually were making better decisions just in general. And these decisions started to compound on each other so that you actually were a better entrepreneur, as if a better entrepreneur just woke up in your body and started noticing stuff that you hadn't noticed before, and therefore allowing you to do things that you couldn't do before because you're seeing those opportunities. And so that's what we started covering in the last live stream, and we'll take it further in this live stream. For those of you who did not see, I'm still doing this test, so let's see how I'm doing this test, so let's talk about this for a second. You definitely are going to want to type in get notes, and in it will make sure that one, that you're a member of our group, but even more importantly, I'll give you access to the notes and a recap video, which is what I just started last live stream. And so for those of you who are not aware, I just posted that in the Facebook group, a 12-minute quick recap video, plus my notes on the summary, basically the transcript of that recap, but with certain things that I highlighted, etc. And please, by all means, follow with the messenger and partake in what it asks you to, because we're trying to make sure that this actually is effective as a strategy, and I will be sharing all that with you later on. So by all means, though, if you're here, not only tell me where you're from and whether this is the first time, but also make sure that you grab those notes. And very curious for anyone who's had the time. I know I only posted it about an hour ago, but if you saw the notes that I posted, would be really interested in hearing what your thoughts were, potentially what could make them better, even though I'm not promising that I'll do that, but I'm interested in knowing what it would be. And let's see. So before we get into it, like I said, we're talking about this thinking process that will turn you into a better entrepreneur almost by accident. And that's kind of cool. So I'm just grabbing a drink. I hope everyone had a great holiday weekend. I basically, my daughter came down and I got to spend a couple days with her, so that was awfully nice. And other than that, we really didn't leave the building very much, other than go to South Beach and hang out a little bit. Ate a bunch of crap, so I'll be paying the price all week this week. And I kind of went on a research bender, you could say, a where I basically came up with a concept and then started doing a bunch of research, and then that research took me to new concepts, which then I started doing a bunch of research, and I'm really excited about actually where it's taking me, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with you, and I hope to have some time later in this live stream to do exactly that, to share that with you. So welcome to the live stream. Since we didn't finish what we started last time, we're going to spend some time reviewing and then going forward. But let's see who we've got. We've got Oliver. Let's kind of move this over here. We got Oliver with us today, so welcome, Oliver. We've got Robert in Scotland. Woot woot, Scotland. We got Joe Suarez. Hey, Joe. Good to see you. We've got Ubaidullah from Dubai. Um, some good UFC fights about to happen there, I think, right? It's in Dubai, I think. We've got Andre from Winnipeg, Canada. We've got uh, Gareth from Ireland. Hey, Gareth, how's it going, man? Long time no speak. Jason from Tampa, Florida, the other coast of Florida. We've got Milos, as always, from Serbia, uh, Belgrade. And we've got George from New Mexico. And so welcome, George. And Bill Lynch from Northern Virginia. So welcome to the live stream, Bill. And welcome, Hugo from Miami, Florida. So we're in the same place, Hugo. Very cool. Al Henderson, just a wannabe. Just a wannabe what? From Harlington, Texas. That's not a good way to talk to you about yourself, man. Kia from Sweden. And Jane Adler from Washington, D.C. And let's see, I see a lot of getting notes here, so we're not going to put those up all on screen. But I appreciate you guys partaking and following the messenger directions. And if you haven't watched the recap, you can watch it on um, in the Facebook group, or you can go to YouTube and check me out on YouTube and watch the recap there and give it a thumbs up and a subscribe to my channel. So let's see here. Where are we? Okay, we've got Mark from the UK. Hello, Mark. We've got Alan from Framingham, Massachusetts, and Teresa, as always, from Ohio. Good to see you, Teresa. Tom is back, and glad to have you back, Tom. And we got Susie Nelson. Didn't result in getting notes. Maybe it only works live. That's interesting. You should have gotten a messenger and let me know. You guys should be getting a messenger when you type that in. Let me know if you're getting the messenger. If you're not getting the Facebook Messenger, then let me know that one way or the other. But that's what you're supposed to get, and then it tells you where to find them. And I think it also said it would email you, maybe. And if that's the case, we got to change that. But so let me know if it says it's going to email you. We got Becky from Arizona. We've got Leon in New York City. Stay safe, Leon. We've got Helena coming from Dubai. Very cool. We've got Bill Lynch, who's been implementing TOC and project management for 20 plus years. Not a new theory of constraints course, but Bill, if you think there's a way to teach it in a compressed way where people would get it and make it stupid simple for people to get it, that I'd be interested in. I just don't know if that's possible. But Bill, you have, I'm sure, a lot more expertise with it than I do. We got Dean from Michigan. We got Louis from Mexico. Good to see you, Louis. And yes, I did. Alan Stacy said, whoop, whoop. Glad I made it on this live stream. Very cool, Redo. Glad that you did. What's up, David? Right back at you. Yes, I got the messenger last live stream and also this live stream. Very cool. Thanks, Louis. So lots of people got the messenger. Cool. Are you bringing back BGS anytime? Yes, I am. And one of the things I'm thinking about doing is adding a course in front of it, based on what I've been researching, and that's kind of what I'm excited about. So I'll be sharing that, Joe, if there's time later. ManyChat is working. Very cool to know. Jane, I wasn't on live last week. Type get notes on the replay, and it worked. Very cool. Thanks, Jane. So good to know that. That makes sense. When typing get notes, it's not giving the notes, but it's auto-populating my email. It's pulling it from my Facebook profile, I guess. Yeah, I guess so, Andre. I'm more interested in the gift, what it's offering you a gift for, and having you guys take that. So that's, although it might be sharing the old one. Let me know if when you do it, it shares last week's or if it shares this week's. I assume it shares last week's. Yikes. Actually, let me, while we're talking here, maybe I can just send a text and let's see if I can. And I apologize for doing this I shouldn't be doing this while it's live, but I also don't want to send everyone to the wrong place. So let's just see where I can send this. Let's see, where's Molly? Let's see. Molly. Uh, forgot forgot about many chat. Any chance you are free to change it to share today's live stream? Mother. Oh well, there goes that experiment for today. Well, nothing goes perfect every time, right? Yeah, it should be the same report, but it also shouldn't be asking when you share it. The Is it sharing today's or is it sharing last week's? And I assume it's sharing last week's. That's what I wanted to know. Yeah, shares for last week. That's what I figured, which is problematic. But still appreciate the share, and that will be helpful regardless. Thank you for that. And all right, so that's how you get the notes. Please make sure that you do it. Using it as a test, want you to participate if you don't mind doing me that solid. And with that said, let's now take a look at where what we covered, where we were at, and where we're now going to go. So, but as I said before, let's make it a monologue. Let's make it a dialogue, not a monologue. I appreciate you taking the time to be here, but you will get a lot more out of it if we're having a back and forth. So feel free to ask me any questions that you have about what we're covering, ideally. But even if you have questions outside of that, let me know that you have a question outside of it, and I'll try and cover it when we're through. And any insights that occur to you as we're going through this, and also feel free to have a conversation with others as well while we're doing this, but please pay attention as well. So I'm going to find that PowerPoint that we had, and let's see, we'll kind of take it from there. So actually, let me go to a different screen. All right. And now let me go to PowerPoint. Cool. All right. And the only challenge with all this is that I see so many of the overlay stuff the from Ecamm. Okay. So let's see here. Can you guys see the slides right now? Let me know if you see the slides. And I'm going to assume that you do see the slides. And with that, we're going to just quickly recap, right? So we started, let's make it a little bit, not so many slides on the page. Yeah, okay, cool. So you guys are seeing the slides. So remember, we started this whole conversation by which is more important to the growth of your business, what you know, how you think. And we came up with all the reasons why it's how you think. And part of that is there are many people that I know I am smarter than, that if we both were to be introduced to the same problem, something that we didn't know before, and had to figure it out, my brain operates at a faster speed than them. But they're better entrepreneurs than I am. And if you put them in my body and they woke up tomorrow in my body, my business would be more successful, not because they're smarter than me, because they're not, but based on who they are, what they would notice, what they would not be distracted by, the opportunities that they would spot, where they would decide to spend their time based on those opportunities, how they interacted with people. All of these things would be different, and because of that, the business outcome would be different. And so that's all based on how you think, not what you know. And if you ever thought, or if as a as a mental exercise, consider the idea of whoever the entrepreneur that you respect, admire the most. If they woke up in your body in a year from now, would your business be different? And most likely the answer is yes. For many of my clients, if I woke up in their body, their business would be bigger, better, So, it's all relative, obviously, but that's why it's how you think, right? And then we talked about the one factor that determines your success, and it's not all the things that most people spend their time on because that is really just a function of their potential. But most people, if you ask them, most businesses, if you ask them, if they are performing at their full potential, they would say they are not. So adding more potential does not just raise the level of results. Adding more potential just makes more potential. So what really determines your success and also the amount of potential that you tap into is your constraints. And every system has a constraint because if the system did not have a constraint, it would have an infinite outflow, right? An infinite throughput. And since every business does not have, or no business has, infinite profits, right? Therefore, there's always a constraint. And when you remove whatever constraint exists, you you cause a surge of growth, a surge of sales, revenue, what have you, because you've just tapped into greater amounts of potential. However, it still won't be infinite. There will be a new constraint somewhere else, and the next level of performance will be achieved through eliminating that constraint. And we talked about how if you weren't if you're not clear what your constraint is, the odds are you spend a lot of time on things that do not move the needle because these are all things that raise your potential. So, you guys with me? Um, and so we started going through this. We went through like the testimonials I'm proud of, blah, 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 right? And these were all questions about what will be that thing that determines your success. And we talked about how it would be none of these things because they all define your potential, right? And that we talked about systems and that every system has a goal. And our businesses are made up of many smaller systems, and that ultimately our business's goal for us, one of those goals has to be to make money now and in the future. And that also our business is our customer system for getting the outcome that ultimately we provide. We talked about like, the idea of your body being a system and how when we look at it that way, the goal would be a long, healthy life. And then whatever fails you that causes you to die would be the constraint to having more of the goal, right? So we talked about that. We talked about constraints, and we talked about that. All right, some testimonials. Gave like Frank Kern's story, which was very interesting, and we talked about the prerequisite tree, right? And that's what we started working on. This idea that, all right, yeah. So this idea that, whoops, there we go. Let's go backwards a little bit, I think. Yeah. Okay. So you guys still with me there? You see number one tool, prerequisite tree. And if you're just joining us, let me know where you're joining us from and whether or not this is your first rodeo, so to speak. Is this the first time you're joining us on a live stream or not? And if you've joined us many times, let me know. Also, if you could type in get notes, that would be very beneficial to you as well as to me. And I will flash that back on the screen for a second. So that should be at the bottom right now. You should see that. And so let's go through this even really quickly, but just to give you a little bit more info. Let's go back to here, right? Let's get rid of this for now. Right, so just because you have a goal doesn't mean you know how to reach it, and if you don't know how to reach it, you often don't understand what is in your way, right? And you don't know what to notice for, even if you're getting closer, what have you. And that's really important, actually. It's something that we have not spent a bunch of time on, so I'm actually glad we're doing this review. Something that I learned from a coach of mine a long time ago was that it's not enough to only be clear about your goals, right? That it's good to know what your goals are. You have a much higher chance of achieving them. However, like the next element, after you're clear about what it is that you're thinking about as you're thinking about your goals, is what is that made up of? What necessary conditions? would need to be there in order for the goal to be true. Not what is nice to have, but what is absolutely essential for this goal to have happened. And by doing that, you're now actually kind of giving your mind the info it needs to recognize the opportunities that exist in the world for those pieces. Because, like, if you want to kind of get metaphysical about it for a moment here, and I just want to, I'm going to put it back to me for a moment. Um, yeah, let's do this real quick. Oh, I got to change my, there we go. Yeah, if you want to kind of get metaphysical about it for a second here, and I don't know why I'm so zoomed in. So, oh, because of that, right? Okay. Let me go back to this for a second. All right. So, if you want to get metaphysical, well, I was saying, if you want to kind of get a little metaphysical about it, um, but I don't know where I was going with that. Uh-oh. All right. So, what I would say though is that if you don't, yeah. Oh, I know where I was going with it. Sorry. Um, what currently does not exist in your business that is absolutely essential for your business to have, right? In order for it to achieve the vision you have for it or whatever ambitious goal you have for it. Just because it's missing from your business doesn't mean it's missing out in the world. And therefore, knowing what it is you need and being and priming your brain to spot it just by being aware of it increases the chances that you will run into, come across, better able to notice and see opportunities that will get you to your goal faster because you're now familiar with some of the sub elements that are necessary for making up your goal. So let me know if that makes sense to you, right? This idea that it's not only important to know what the goal is, right? But then in addition to that, what are the necessary elements that must be present in order for that goal to be achieved? Let me know if that makes sense. If you're just joining us, let us know where you're joining us from. And if you're just joining us also, make sure that you do what I'm saying down here and go through the entire process. It'll be worth your while, and we will be sharing results about it as I get more. So please partake, and if you partake throughout the process that you'll be introduced to there, you will be able to get some useful information from us. So anyway, so that's where we were at, and so this idea of not only being clear about your goal, what needs to be achieved, and the way that you get clarity about what needs to be achieved is kind of like a very different way than might be normally perceived, right? And that is that, that is by being clear about what are the necessary conditions that that need to be present. So Kylie says, or Kia says, can you give an example? And yes, I can, and I will, but just stay with me, okay? And so we talked about the obstacles, like being clear, like, okay, so here's why is your business not where it needs to be right now? So if my goal was to make $150,000 a month, and right now I'm making $20,000, the question is, why am I not making $150,000 a month right now? And then because I will have answers to that question, and those answers will be the problems that I'm experiencing in my business that are preventing me from getting that outcome. Another way to define problems is obstacles. And so I was sharing how, like, the first time I went through this process, how cathartic it was for me, because not only was I getting clarity, but just it was also the first time that I ever had the chance of just being really clear about, okay, here are all the things that separate me from what it is I really want. And so I suggest that you follow this process. And it's basically gives you a roadmap to your goal, right? That it exposes the missing information, it releases the pent up anxiety, and it exposes shortcuts and a lot of other benefits that uh, I don't know what I just did there, so hold on. Let me go backwards. right? So we talked about that, and then we talked about the steps involved, and the steps involved are one. Whoa, I don't know what's going on here. Whoops, I'm just going to do it uh, by up and down arrows. Okay, so you choose your goal, right? And then you identify why you are currently not at the goal. Then those are the obstacles. Then you convert those obstacles into intermediate objectives by just basically saying the opposite. And then you put them in their proper sequence, and now you have these objectives and obstacles kind of mapped out, right? So I shared an example here, right? That why are you not in London? Well, my suitcase isn't packed. I don't know what to wear in London, and there's hardly any parking at the train station, right? So we turn those into objectives from my suitcase isn't packed to I have a suitcase packed, right? Etc. I have a list of things I'm going to wear, etc. Right? And now we're going to put them in their proper sequence. Obviously, we can't have the suitcase packed if we don't first have a list of what we're going to wear, so that has to come first, right? And here was actually an example of a student that was doing it in my GPS class when I was teaching it, so that I can make it really straightforward and simple. And then I shared my own example, right? I had this goal of wanting to do $150,000 a month in my business. I was only doing about 20,000 through personal coaching, and these were all the reasons why I didn't have a business that was currently making me $150,000 a month. And so that was what I came up with, right? And then I turned each of those obstacles into a intermediate objective, and then I put them in order by just comparing each one to every other one and asking this question. And then I then put them in their proper order, right? Basically, by asking that question and then mapping them out, like based on dependencies, right? Some are not dependent on any. For example, like as you can see, I don't know if you can see here. Whoops. But like what you're seeing in that middle column is that, that goes straight up, is that uh, that middle column is obviously not attached to the column on the left. Although the one on the left is attached to the one on the right, and then the one on the right then does meet up with the middle one. So we're kind of mapping the dependencies, right? And I'm just kind of showing you how to do it. And I don't remember what tool I used for this. I think I just used PowerPoint. And here's just a better view of it. And you're getting a sense of what I believed at the time was necessary so that I could be making $150,000 a month. And then we talked about, okay, I thought we did that already. Okay, we talked about what if you don't know your obstacles, which is problematic. But so we're not going to revisit that. But now that you have this map, the goal is to challenge it, and you want to look at every obstacle and say, is this really an obstacle to achieving my goal? Is this absolutely necessary for me to have it? Are there any connections that aren't necessarily true? Does each intermediate objective really overcome the obstacle? Is there an easier way to overcome the obstacle? And I gave you a bunch of questions that were in my notes that when you get notes, you'll have access to, and that's in our group. And so another challenge is to ambitiously challenge and then also to look for shortcuts, and I also went into that in the notes. So you have the ambitious challenge, and you have the which is made up of decreasing the time allotted or increasing the amount of money or both or doing less yourself. But how can you ambitiously challenge this goal? And then the shortcut is you're looking for shortcuts, basically. Can you jump over any of the intermediate objectives? Can you get around an obstacle instead of eliminating it? And I showed you here that that I was able to come up with 3 steps that would overcome all my obstacles. So instead of having to do and have all these things because of the aggressive ambitious search and challenges that I did, I figured out that I could do these three things: create a free report that was tied to a $5,000 coaching program and do that coaching program as a group process. And I could immediately be making a lot more than $150,000 a month. And I shared the results of that with you guys. Okay, so now that is kind of step number one, and that's what we've kind of covered, right? So the next step is to really think about what I was just talking about. Like, what are all the pieces that are absolutely essential that need to be there in order for the business to succeed, right? So it creates a boundary in defining the system, right? So you're thinking about what are things that, when achieved, in total, like all the different elements, that the goal is present because of what has happened, right? So let me give you kind of a totally different example for a second before we go into my example. Um, One of the things that I do at the beginning of a consult, whether that's an hour-long consult, whether that is a multi-hour consult over a period of time, whether that's a full day or a half-day consult, one of the first questions I ask the client is, what needs to be true that is not true right now for this, whatever this is, this hour, this time together over time, this day we're spending, whatever, for this to be the best investment you've ever made in your life. And then they're going to tell me some things, and I'm going to listen to those things and challenge if there are any that it wouldn't be clear by the time we're done whether or not the thing I gave was that, right? So if someone says, I'd have two winning ideas for campaigns, and I'd be like, well, how would you know that they're winning by the time we're done? Because I want to get clarity on exactly what the goal is, and then I will be able to move the conversation to exactly what needs to happen in order for them to leave with that accomplished. And so that defines basically the guardrails of the conversation for me. If I know that X is most important to the client, and we're starting to spend a lot of time talking about why, I'm going to move the conversation back to X because because X is what the client already told me is the most important thing, right? So same thing here, by defining what needs to be in the business, X, so to speak, where you can distinguish between what's nice to have, between what we must have, what is absolutely essential to accomplish your goal, and also clarity on your day-to-day action. So let's keep going. So this is what it kind of looks like. Okay, this is an internet, blah, 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 blah. An IO map. Okay, intermediate objective map, but let's just call it an IO map. Okay, so you have your goal, and your goal is made up of certain things that, when all present, the goal is present, right? And those critical success factors are what, hold on, I'm just moving stuff around here, are made up of, right, the necessary conditions, which are now what your intermediate objectives in the previous process now turns into. Okay? Does that make sense on a very superficial level? So let's kind of go back for a second. Let's talk for a moment. And let's see. Let's see. Where is this? There we go. So does that make sense for you guys? What we just covered. That we're looking at and it will get clearer. Obviously, you might not know how to formulate a critical success factor at this moment. I get that. What you will, but does what I said make sense? And let me take a look at what the comments are back and forth here. Okay, so Carl is saying hi from Italy, and we're doing a bunch in Italy, so hopefully my Italian partners will see your very generous offer, Carl, and maybe they'll take you up on that. Hi, Mark from London. Hi, Michelle from Wyoming. And hi, Ankit from Toronto, Canada. And lots of you who are getting the notes, so thank you for that. And Kurt in Mauritius, which always sounds so tropical and nice. Um, what causes are necessary for the effect? Okay, yeah, right. Not my first radio rodeo. Cool. You were going to describe visualizing the goal as it already happened, I think. Well, what would need to be there in order for it to happen? So it's not really about the goal specifically, but what elements of your business would need to be there for it to have achieved that goal. Uh, yes, that's true. You will not see answers to questions you haven't asked yourself. I don't always know what questions to ask. Well, this will help you. And Kia, that's where we're going to an example. Uh, Tuning in from West Virginia. Hi, Dina Colada. Nice to see you again. And Joey loves this. Very cool. Become a better copywriter. That's great. Okay, we don't need that. Okay, and then we have Ankit. I use this for a small goal. I had a goal of completing a whole Google campaign setup in 1 hour. I thought, what are my obstacles? Keyword research, analytics, saying, tag manager, etc. Then it lit. Then it all came to my mind. What will be 80/20 to complete in 1 hour? Um, it occurred. Go to competitor keywords, negative keyword copy paste. Goal was to start the ad, not having superstart ad from day one. So were you successful? I guess is the question that I have. Um, that's the question I have on Kit. Okay, cool. It makes sense. Is there a strict difference between an objective and a success factor? We'll get to that. Ask me that again in a bit. Mark says, yes, excellent. Makes sense. Okay, and Carl says it makes sense. Cool. All right. So then let's get back to it, I guess, huh? Uh, and if I have to remove that, I will. Okay. And it's, and I apologize. I might be a little rusty teaching this because it's been a while. Oops, wrong thing to show you. Okay, let's keep digging deeper. Okay. So, let me get rid of the overlay. And so we're going to analyze your intermediate objectives. We're going to convert intermediate objectives into necessary conditions. And then we're going to group the necessary conditions by function. We're going to create critical success factors, and then we're going to map out the goal, critical success factors, and necessary conditions. And I get that this might be complicated, but just bear with me, okay? So now let's take a look at this. And might have to, let's see how I'm going to do this so that I want to see if I can make this bigger. Can't. Okay. Damn. Well, maybe I can do it from here. Nope. Can't do it from there. All right. Let's see if I can. Yep. Okay. So my business has a robust lead generation process that generates buyers of my lead information products, right? Nowadays, I would say customer acquisition, right? Customer acquisition has to be a necessary condition, but you could also say robust lead generation, optimized conversion process, right? From I have a series of information products that we sold to buyers of my lead product. Remember, I'm looking at those original obstacles. Complete product funnel, ongoing client only marketing, right? So I want to make sure that this is somewhat clear to you guys. We are kind of categorizing, we're chunking up, if you want to kind of say what it is. So, in other words, like, what is a car? A car is a type of vehicle, but there are other types of vehicles, like bicycles, motorcycles, right? So, vehicle is a chunk higher, you could say, than car or automobile, right? And so that's what we're doing basically. We're asking, what is this an example of, really, when we look at the intermediate objectives? Right. So now we're looking at these necessary conditions, and as I said, we're now categorizing them. So robust lead generation process is part of marketing. A complete product funnel is part of marketing, right? Product development is part of content development. Niche prospect repackaging, that's also part of content. Product sequence strategy, that's part of marketing. Does this kind of once again, I'm asking you, does this make sense? And please interact with me so I know whether or not I have to spend more time on this. I'm going to assume it does because I think there's a delay, but we're now looking for these areas of the business. We're chunking up a level even more, and hopefully that makes sense, right? So what is robust lead generation and optimized conversion process an example of? It's an example of marketing, right? And so that's how we're able to chunk up. Okay, so now we are starting to design this map that we're calling an IO map. Okay, and we're now taking these pieces and mapping them onto the diagram, right? From the from the from this, whoops, from the necessary conditions, right? And then grouping them and then summarizing them. Okay, cool. And this is what we have, right? That there are certain parts that are key to both, right? Like publishing calendar optimized for selling our products, that's going to impact the marketing department as well as the content development department, right? But I'm laying out here another way that to kind of describe what the business will need to look like. So that's what I want to first kind of underscore here. We're attempting to visually kind of describe what the business, when it will achieve its goal, will look like. Now, I did this before I came up with all those shortcuts. So I'm showing you the bigger one, and I believe I did this in PowerPoint as well. But the tool I recommend is a tool that you can get a free trial on, Flying Logic. But before we go there, let's first just look at this. And let's look at some of the questions here. Because once again, like I said, this is not necessarily something that I've practiced a lot in the last decade. Okay, so everyone's saying it makes sense. That's great. Then Milos asked a question. And the question is, can you define the difference between content and marketing from your perspective? Yes, well, Milos, what I would one first say is that you got to remember that when I created this presentation, it was, well, you don't have to remember, but I'll ask you to remember. Hold on. Just kind of trying to see what, whoops. I think it was like 11 years ago. So content and marketing were not as much hand in hand as it is today. I would say that content development, though, is part. Marketing leverages content development, right? But I kind of see content development being a bigger piece of the business in an info business where it's also creating the products. It's also it's hand in hand with a lot of the marketing, but content at the end of the day is what I sell in addition to how I market. So that content has to be developed, right? For lack of a better way of describing it. I hope that helps, Milos. And if it doesn't, just ask me the question in another way. All right, so let's go back now to the slides and we will keep going. And are you guys enjoying this? I hope you're enjoying this. So that's what the IO map originally looked like, right? Now, here is an example of that when I started to take it down a notch as far as more clarity and really start to identify the elements better. Okay. Um, so hopefully this doesn't throw everything I just said off. Let's take a look at it. And so we have large. So what is this? So this is now for $100 million info publishing business, right? And what the critical success factors would be large sustainable revenue. I'm doing this on a very general level, right? Sustainable results and focused products and programs, right? Sustainable result focused products and programs, like in other words, like our reputation would not hurt our growth, uncomprising customer focus, and motivated and capable teams. So these are the critical success factors of this $100 million business. Now, to have large sustainable revenue, we will need an optimum selling system, the best way to acquire customers, right? The optimized sales funnels, and we'll have to have multiple guru product lines, right? We'll also have to be front end focused, and we'll have to have well managed, segmented customers and prospect lists. So, does this start to help you in understanding how to get clarity on what your business needs? Because what your business needs is missing from your business, but it's not missing in the world. And that's a very important point. Like I said, not to be overly metaphysical about it, but nonetheless, that's true, right? So now let's kind of do this for a second, and you can join our. Well, we're going to take that out for now. And all right, so let's kind of look at some of these questions here, and I'll do my best to answer. Okay, so I answered that one. What tools are you using to diagram? These I just used PowerPoint for. Okay, Milos, awesome, got it. Content is the product also when you run an info business. Right. Thank you, Rich. Great learnings, cool. Okay, that's a get notes. And okay, so that's great clarity. Awesome. All right, so everyone's getting this. And so why is that useful? Well, one of the things when you're clear about what your business needs, you then start to look at other questions like the make versus buy. Like, can I go out there and find that? And if you can't, like, is there, you might have thought about joint ventures and affiliate deals as just being on the marketing side, but maybe someone has some of these components and you can get access to them. And so through a joint venture deal that is not just marketing related, but operationally related. And so along those lines, that's something to really think about. And you won't know what those things are unless you've spent some time kind of mapping out what the goal of your business is, what are the critical success factors that if the goal was achieved, they must be there. They couldn't be missing. And then from there, what causes those critical success factors? What must be present for those critical success factors to be present? So this is how you create a IO map. Now, why is an IO map important? Well, an IO map is important because at the end of the day, this is really what's going to define for us the boundaries of the system. And like I said, if not at the beginning of this live stream, but in the previous one, that when we are using theory of constraints to find the constraint that is stopping the business right now from tapping into the most amount of potential that it could, we're not looking at just problems. We're looking at problems that relate to this. This creates the system. Boundaries, right? It's this that when we look at this, and say, what's preventing us from having this? Why don't we have this now? Right? Now we're going to get what's called undesirable effects, and we will move to that, I assume, pretty quickly. Okay, here's another version, another example, right? And I just wish I could make this bigger. Let me see if I can do it maybe here. What I'm trying to do is get the get what I see when I'm on the other page to be a lot bigger so that but I can't seem to do it. Bummer. All right. No, no, I'm talking about for me to see because it's hard for me to read it with you. Oh, let's go back for a second. All right. So here's another IO map. So a 3.2 info publishing company. I didn't create all these. These were from different students of mine. Sustainable revenue, a stable of cutting edge products, a motivated and effective team of alliances, technical and support staff, and high customer something. Right. So these, and then what would cause those? So hopefully, once again, this makes sense. Okay. Here's another one. Oh, make over 500,000 in net profit next year, right? And what this person has identified is, let's take a look. Leverage existing assets of non-core business to maximize net profit, maximize operating profit of core business, use financial controls to improve cash flow, leverage partners, affiliates, workers, and employees to maximize net profit. So now this person's doing an IO map not for like the business when it's done, but to have to complete a goal, right? And so this is what this person has decided is necessary, and the critical success factors, and then the necessary conditions of those critical success factors. Um, those things uh, for achieving this goal. All right. So once again, we convert. Oops. We analyze your intermediate objectives. You convert your intermediate objectives into your necessary conditions. You group them by function. You create critical success factors from those groupings, and you map them out. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, now it's your turn to follow. What does it say? Well, I don't remember. I can't see what it said. So now the current reality tree. Okay, I will get to questions in a minute. Let's first kind of cover a little bit of the current reality tree, and then I'll move back to questions. So the current reality tree is really the tool that we use to find constraints. It uses cause and effect logic. This is the tool that will actually help you become a better entrepreneur just by using it. And it isolates the leverage points in your business and shows you the root problems that your business has. So this helps. So you come up with undesirable effects, and the undesirable effects, hopefully, it will show in a second. So I'm not going to try and steal my answer, but I know the answer. So first, before we say about how to get them, these are the problems that you are experiencing that are preventing you from having the business be like that right now. And we're going to redefine them as symptoms later on, but these are the problems, right? And they're undesirable because they cannot exist, or they cause the obstacle. They are in conflict with us achieving our goals. So either their existence prevents us from achieving the necessary conditions or achieving the critical success factors, or it prevents us from achieving the goal, and it is the way that we get access to what are the constraints. Okay, so here are the steps. We analyze the IO map, and then we ask ourselves a question to surface these undesirable effects. And then I'll explain what a two-layer matrix is in a second. And then from that two-layer matrix, you then will create a current reality tree, and you expand on those clusters. This will all make sense in a second. You will identify additional causes. You will build down and across, and you will identify ultimately, you will identify ultimately the leverage point. Hopefully you can see that. Whoops. All right. Maybe you can't. I think you can though. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, maybe you can't see number 8. Identify leverage point. Interesting. All right. So here is that IO map again, and now we are looking at it and developing our undesirable effects. Okay, so effective marketing department. Well, right now our marketing department is ineffective, right? Ongoing client only marketing. We don't market separately to clients, right? Robust lead generation. We don't generate enough leads. Um, this is all the reasons why we don't have it, right? Whoops. Okay. We constantly, for launch calendar with products that maintain our positioning, one of the undesirable effects when we look at that, why don't we have that, is that we constantly miss deadlines and abandon calendars. So what's the point of having a calendar? And then you can also see, though, that a different issue is also going to that undesirable effect, and that is publishing calendar optimized for selling products, right? So um, both of these are kind of the reason we don't have these is because we constantly miss deadlines and abandon the calendar anyway. Okay, does that make sense? Let me know if that makes sense. I see there's some questions here. We will get to them in a second. So here is what the two-layer matrix is. And basically, we're just asking why twice, right? So the marketing department isn't effective. And when we ask why, it's because we've been unable to hire a lead marketer. And when we ask why we have been unable to hire a lead marketer, one of the reasons, not all of the reasons, but one reason is we don't even have a good job description. We don't market separately to clients. Why? Because we don't have clear product buying paths after they buy our core product. Why? The products we've created are not focused or part of a curriculum, right? So now we're getting deeper and deeper. Does that make sense with you guys? Let me know, please, as we go backwards here for a second. And now I'm going to go back live. Oh, these are the notes, by the way, just so you see. These were the notes from the last live stream, right? That are from my Evernote. All right. So let's now go back here. And nope, that's not where I wanted to go. Sorry. I think here. And let's now. Where am I? Where am I? All right. Okay. So cool. Great clarity. Awesome. 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 I didn't realize that was still on. Um, okay. So let's see where we were. So Ankit wanted to know, do you put contingency into it too? Not really, because we're not using this as a final product. We're using this Ankit to get to another answer. So we're not looking, the goal is in the planning, not in having the plan. So it's not as if we need to create a lot of additional material to make it more comprehensive, if that makes sense. Okay, Oliver wants to know, have a second computer monitor with the live stream shown to a regular Facebook user account. Yeah, I could do that. I could also have a monitor, but in this setup, I don't. Um, are you still using this approach? Is it evolving to broadcast? Am I using this approach in my business? Yes, but I don't use it frequently because it's not generally something that you need to do frequently once you have it mastered. What I would suggest is that you do it quite frequently in the beginning, just so your brain starts to think in this way. And what I mean by that is that you start having much more clarity about when you take an action, what the effect of that action is going to be, and then what is the effect of the effect, so that you're now thinking like 3 moves ahead in your day to day life. And because you do that, then you are a better entrepreneur. And I hope that makes sense. Uh, yes, excellent question asking why. And you're asking why twice just to get deeper into it, right? Brian is reaching chess player capacity, but it's all good. Okay. Um, I love the number tunnel graphic. I'm not sure which one that was, but okay. Couldn't see step 8, and that was just surface root causes, I guess, or something to that effect. Um, All right. So, very cool. Should we proceed even further? I guess we should. And so let's have at it, right? All right. Let's do this. And once again, let me put the overlay on for a second for those of you who are just joining us. There you go. And now we've done this, right? We've gone 2 levels deep for the 5 to 10 undesirable effects we came up with. We're not trying to get more than 5 to 10 because we're trying to get the diagram up first, okay? So this is what is flying logic. And the beauty of flying logic is that when you start connecting a cause and an effect, you're going to notice that certain causes cause numerous effects. And because they cause, oh, wait, you're not seeing what I see. Duh. Whoops. My bad there. Okay. Let's go back here and let's go to the PowerPoint. All right. And let's get rid of the show note thing. All right. Sorry about that. And I know that there's a part that's cut off. Let me see actually. Oh, I know what I can do. I should be able to, will this make a difference? No, that doesn't make a difference. All right, so let me just go here for a second and do this. All right, now you should see the whole thing. Yep, you do. All right, so this is the diagram that I use GetNotes to create, and the beautiful, not GetNotes, the beautiful thing, flying logic. And the cool thing about flying logic is that when you start doing these kinds of maps, you will notice that one cause can actually be responsible for numerous effects. And when, therefore, you'll see more opportunities to connect two of the entities. And very quickly, the map can just have lines all over this place. So what flying logic does is that it redraws the map every time you make a new connection so that it's the clearest that it possibly can be. And if we have time, maybe I'll show you that. But so we don't generate enough leads, right? That was one of the issues, right? That we came up as an undesirable effect. Well, why don't we generate enough leads? Well, one reason is we rely on launches as our primary source of leads. Okay. Another reason is that we don't pay for advertising. Another reason is we don't do search engine optimization, right? Now, why don't we pay for advertising? Well, we don't pay for advertising because we don't know the lifetime value of a client, right? So we don't know how much we can afford to pay for a customer, right? Why don't we know the lifetime value of a client? Because we don't have clear product buying paths. Like what someone buys from us after they buy the first thing is totally haphazard. So